Hi friends, it's Holden back again, and I'm going to pick up for some more about the understanding of the human aura from a historical perspective. And I believe we left off last time on slide number 8. If you want to catch the first one, there's a video somewhere in the feed. And what do we have here? It looks like it could be Incan or Mayan, the stepped pyramids down in South America, somewhere near the Amazon rainforest. And there's a huge plumage around this individual with a silver type headdress, and he's got red and green. The later Incan Empire was particularly vicious, and there were horrible types of sacrificial offerings that they made in their demented understanding of life. This particular display of feathers is an expression of the radiant aura or energy that would be emanating from an individual. You'll notice a difference in headdresses across different civilizations being either silver or gold, and that would be depending on the type of religion that they're representing. But this one here has a lot of green, which represents a breaking forth into new territory. So this guy's the leader. You'll also notice the pectoral, which is this expression around the chest. So fundamentally, we've got a couple different radiation fields within the human aura that set up on top of one another, create a layered understanding of the electromagnetic system of the human. It's not unlike, here, like this. We've got this is the human anatomy, so this is showing the muscles. This one here is showing the veins and arteries. This one's showing the skeletal system. And then we've got different organs within the body, the digestive system. So anatomically, at a physical level, there's all these different organs that have different processing functions within the ongoing of a physical existence whilst it's alive. It is similar in the same sense for the electromagnetic radiation of a human being, and that there are different levels within the aura. Many of these happen to be quite well known. So you've got the etheric here, or out at the edge you have the sheath of the human aura. But within it, there's actually, that's like saying, the human has a skeleton. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. And there's a physical skin. So those are two pretty obvious levels. But in between those, there's a whole lot going on. The same goes for the aura. So the edge of an aura is pretty well understood, and the etheric, which is the kind of more denser part. But within those two ranges, it's interesting to classify it perhaps as going from the neck up in a certain electromagnetic display happening there in the aura, or from the neck down. And the idea being is that there's electromagnetic atmospheres and chargings, like different levels of energy within a human being can cause activation at different levels. So the pectoral and around the chest is a whole feature of electromagnetic expressions. Yeah, there is the around the head and those specific types of radiations, and then there's the rest of the body. So we'll be looking at these main areas: head, chest, and rest of the body. And then also the big feature here is the green expression, which has to do with green and red is a combination of colors that in their high end, and this is a lesson to be understood as we look at different colors, every color has its high, fine, energetic, regenerative side, and colors then go through a gradient where at the lower end it's dark, it's murky, and it's a more polluted end of that range of a color. So you can have fine green or coarse green, fine red or coarse red, fine blue or coarse blue. So you've got this range, and that tells a whole lot of a story of what type of energies are going on within a person. And I'll just mention it, that the higher the true planetary frequencies moving through the person, the finer the colors. The more polluted, warring, degenerative, ugly side of humans, their electromagnetic radiation comes out as a pollution level, and you get the darker, murkier end of the color. Sorry, it's been a long day. So this guy here has red and green, and I would call them towards the darker end. So powerful person, yes, but perhaps with malintent. Here's a beautiful display above a head. I'm not sure if this isn't, I'm not sure what indigenous tribe this person is from, but these feathers. So if you've ever looked very closely at a bird feather, you'll find that it's made up of like thousands of these little fine featherettes, I guess you could call them. And it's a very appropriate type of representation of the type of filaments. Yeah, that would be it. So you've got a feather and all these fine little filaments coming off of it. It's a very close approximation of these types of electromagnetic threads I called before, or filaments that come out from the human mind. So you have this set of rings that are being displayed around this person's head. And what it's describing in this case, and this is where color is your first doorway into understanding what's going on within a human aura. And as we go through the different slides, different colors will have different meanings and how they're used. This particular fellow, it looks like he's got some black and white going on, and then red. So black and white has to do with clear thinking, defining the borders and boundaries between things, but also, interestingly enough, it's also used as an occult barrier, in the sense of to keep away low energy. You can have black and white. So it's not uncommon in halls of justice or in royal palaces, in the main entryway, as you would go down this long corridor to where, you know, perhaps there's some royal chamber or something of that nature where the high energy is supposed to be. On the approach to that high energy location, it's quite often that the floor is checkerboarded with black and white. Black and white is a type of contrasting of two apparently opposite colors. And what it's meant to do is to confuse and break down low energy. So I've noticed some people are talking about smudging and things of this nature, of getting rid of low energy. Having a black and white checkered floor pattern is a long-standing, traditional, esoteric architectural design that is meant specifically to be like an electromagnetic cleaning process. So there's something about what's around this guy's head, which is to do with black and white, keeping low thoughts out of his headspace. And this red would have to do with marshalling. Red has to do with armies and marching and being in charge, and kind of the determination of a focus of a great deal of energy. So it's no wonder that it's used a lot in wartime. Okay, so now we get more to the religious side of it, because I would think that this might be Buddhist, but I'm not sure. And it's very curious, these types of round hats, which are representing a more type of contained, but if you were to look from the back of those red hats, it looks almost like a cup. And so the idea, as mentioned in the earlier tape, is that, you know, there's the saying, may your cup runneth over. And you can see emblazoned on these headdresses is these types of floral patterns representing a kind of an active higher mental faculty. And you'll notice that there's these two type of white lines that extend on those white hats, and those would be coming from the temple region. So they're on the sides of your head where you've got, you know, these fontanelles, like they're the soft spots on your temples, when a baby is born, there's actually a soft spot on the top of the skull that needs to be protected. With highly illumined people, it is understood that there are, especially with the activation of a pineal gland, there's the emitting of a high level human frequency that actually causes different parts of the skull to melt. And it was said, for example, Confucius had an open fontanelle on the top of his head, which would be the same as like a newborn baby. Due to the coarseness of the electromagnetism that's enveloping planet Earth right now, that fontanelle gets closed up, but it can be melted and opened up. So these types of hats, and so what I was getting at is you've got the temples, which is soft spots, and maybe a soft spot in the top of the head represents where force can get in, because you need to think about the human head, and as we spoke about in tape 1, it's to do with human evolution, and perhaps the next stage of human evolution is to do with the increasing of the mental faculty into a whole array of higher mental faculty capabilities, clairvoyance, telepathy, knowing things deeply, being able to learn quickly, the capacity to understand things at a deep and profound level. So that seems to be part of what the next stages of human evolution are. And a lot of these religions from the world have been in pursuit of the development of these higher mental faculties. Now this dude right here at the front looks fantastic, and you've got this emblazoned, they almost look kind of like flames coming out from his head. And this is very typical, as we'll see in more of the slides, is that it is like it's almost like rays of energy coming off of his head. The concept being, as we spoke about before, you've got a planetary level energy, and then above it there's a solar level energy. When someone gets initiated into a solar level of energy, that will come into their head and wake up their faculties and wake up their mind in a way that hasn't been before. The term that's used is a coronation. So the idea of the corona of the sun, and that your mind and your faculty now become opened and available, and your brain and mind is high enough and fine enough with reference and understanding to be able to handle super high frequencies that come from the sun. When that happens, you have deep insight, and you become, in a sense, a natural leader at that point. And so you get this idea of a crown going on to someone's head, especially when they're taking, a prince becomes a king. The idea is that there's a coronation and the crown gets put upon his head. That's all a nice theater that they have, and there's all the kind of special royal lingerie that they wear and all of this costuming. But the actual truth of the matter is that a coronation can happen to an individual who has dedicated their life to becoming the highest and finest type of human possible. And for each individual, that would be a unique kind of radiation that would burst forth from their head. But it's interesting to look at it from that human development point of view. Here's one. This is a Balinese dancer, and in Bali is a unique form of Hinduism, which is curious because in Indonesia, in the thousands of islands that are there, most of those islands are Islamic, but within it there's this one island, Bali, that is Hinduism, and they've got a particular flavor and style of Hinduism that's unique and different from the Hinduism in India. And they have a beautiful tradition in hearkening back to times of ancient understanding of human development. And so there's not only around the head and with this great, almost practically floral expression, there's and here's an interesting thing to consider: the difference between men and women and the different types of development that exist there. because women or the female form is naturally inclined to be connected to planet Earth, because the planet herself we live on a feminine planet. Okay, planet Earth is feminine. The sun in the sky is masculine. Now it's clear that both of them are interacting energetically with each other. And one of the expressions of this interaction is the light from the sun comes and causes a floral bouquet to happen on planet Earth. That expressed at a human level would be like this lady's demonstrating, is this bright wakening up and a blossoming of a type of flower, and like a plentifulness around the head. And there's with this type of expression, there's also a massive electromagnetic charge that goes down into the body that causes all this beautiful kind of dance to happen. And that energy goes down the arms and comes out the fingers. So the Balinese dancers will quite often have these long kind of finger extensions, which are there to represent a high degree of electromagnetic force just pouring off of their body. Now, that wouldn't be the state of affairs for everyone. It has to do with the state of affairs for highly developed women that are able to embody this high solar energy, and it plays through their physical complex, and it has a different type of expression coming out from the pectoral. There's so much to be said about all of these things. It's quite amazing. So this Buddhist one is really fantastic, because what you have there is, okay, so I was talking about the fontanelle on the top of the head, and you get this little bump happening on the top of the head, which is in a way meaning he has an activated pineal gland that is indicated by two things. One is the pineal gland sending out a signal, boop, boogie, 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 and the brain responding to it and trying to grow to a greater capacity, because as the human becomes more connected to the universe, there's a lot more electromagnetic processing that goes through the human mind. Then what that results in is this halo that goes around his head, but you can see this one comes down to the shoulders, because as you may or may not know, 20% of your blood flow goes up to your head and then goes back down, and the rest, 80%, runs through your body. So even though your head is only 1/20th of the weight of your body, there is 20% of the blood flow going to the brain, because it is such a highly functioning organ within the system. And so much more is unknown about the human brain than is known. And looking at it through the optics of the human aura and the electromagnetic system of the human, the mystery of the brain starts to reveal itself even more. And so one of the things that happens is, as you start to have higher connection to universal forces in your mind, it starts to cause your mind and your brain to actually kind of open up like a seed, and something almost growing out of it. And because most of your blood is going, or 20% of your blood is going up into your brain, it's also coming down into your body. So what this is showing is not only the holiness of what's going on in his head, but the holiness into his body also. He's probably sitting on a lotus, but we'll look at that in a little while. Here's another one. And you get these beautiful Buddhist statues depicting these types of growths happening out the top of a head. And in this particular one, to try and understand some of the forces at play that happen electromagnetically, first let me just put in a principle. You have transmissive force and you have receptive force, and so something transmits and something receives it, kind of like penis and vagina at the most core level, you know, but you have the stem of a flower, and then it opens up. So you've got the kind of transmissive and then the receptive part. The human aura and what goes on around the head is a double feature in regards to this. So on one hand, the head is like a cup, and may your cup runneth over, and you can be taking in high energy into your head. There is also the other side of it, which is the transmissive, which is having a transmission point above your head. And that can be like a ray. You can have a powered ray coming out of your head. So a P ray, which is pray. So this particular individual here would be involved in a state of prayer, where this guy here, you see his two hands are kind of cupped, and it's almost like he would be in a receiving type of state of affairs. And this one here would be in a transmissive state of affairs. And you can also tell from, you know, his hand, he's got one hand here and one hand resting. So it gets to be quite interesting. When you have a lot of transmission and reception going on electromagnetically, just like any type of real electromagnetic or physical machine, when there's a lot of process going on, there's going to be exhaust. And so these kind of earlobes, and he's probably wearing some kind of sash. We'll see it in some other pictures where it's almost people wear sashes in different costumes and outfits, which is almost like an exhaust pipe, actually, is what it is. Okay, here's one. You've got, so this would be a receiving one, mostly. And you can see hands are in a receiving type of posture. You've got, again, this bulge happening at the top of the head. You have here then, so the two types of things when we're talking between planetary versus solar, like the planet versus the sun, and these different kinds of energy. The planet energy is quite often depicted with a flower. Yeah, there's like the 1,000-petaled lotus. There's the blooming of an orchid. There's the flower, which is the organic flower part of something. That's one part of it. Then you have the solar part, which is more like the rays of the sun and the rays of energy, and the sheer ferocious solar power as it can travel through space is amazing. So what we got here is the inner part is showing a flower type of development around the person's head, which would be speaking about their radiation around their head has a planetary establishment, and then the rays coming off of that showing that there's also the complementary solar aspect at the same time. And we're kind of in these early slides here laying the groundwork of what you'll see happens over and over and over again. This one's fantastic. There's so much going on here. So the idea of the serpent is a big deal in Buddhism. Actually, in all world religions, the serpent is an interesting thing, and it's dual-natured in its description. So one of the concepts of a snake or a serpent is talking about the lower order of things, kind of like, the snake in the Garden of Eden, or the serpents or serpentine energy representing lower orders of life. On the other hand, there's another type of serpent energy that exists within the human. It goes by the name of Kundalini, which is the idea is that there's something in the lower part of your spine that can, under special circumstances, get released, and this kind of Kundalini gets released and can come up your spine and come over the top of your head. And what that represents is that there is this inner energy that is serpentine in its depiction that has to do with the activation of a particular kind of energy. It's a little too detailed to get into explanation here, the nature of the energy that would be associated with Kundalini energy, but the idea of the awakening of something that was dormant is represented with this snake. So he's got these I think sometimes with these Buddhists they've got these 7 cobras around them, and then he's got these lower ones coming up, so it's showing both the higher and the lower order of things. And he's sitting on this interesting platform that these platforms are sitting on 1,000-petaled lotus. What it starts to talk about is the person's ability to be not only conducting in energy from high, but also having the support of the planet, because as a human being begins to be a conductor of high universal force, they need a lot of healing and support system coming from the planet. I'm just going to pause for a second here. I see that to be another 25-minute run. That could be the good little bit for now. I'm going to pause once again, and we'll come back and we'll start at slide number 15. Leave your comments in below. If you've got a specific question about one of the slides, they're numbered there, so you can say, on slide 14 or something and have a question. I'd be happy to do a bit of a deeper dive, but thanks for your attention and look forward to the next one. And it looks like some people have asked also for detection and for clairvoyance, and so in time we'll get to making some of those videos. So this is for the Tomorrow Today tribe. Hope you enjoy it. Bye.